Hello, everybody. My name is Furman Trey Torres. I go by Trey. This is my oral presentation for um, Integrative Studies 4350 with Dr. Welch here at Texas Tech University. My topic I decided to go with was water scarcity in Texas cotton. Um, Water scarcity is a big issue today, especially here in Texas, with all the cotton that's around here in the Lubbock County, and people depend on that water, whether it's rainwater, irrigation water, anything that has to do with growing plants, basically. In plant science, it comes into play. My two, I believe I have a general business as one of my concentrations, and I also have organizational leadership as one of my other concentrations, and then integrative studies as my other concentration. Um, to continue, here's the abstract. Was probably one of the most difficult things for me to do because it was you had to tie your whole paper into one paragraph. That was a little difficult for me, but finding out the problem. When water is not available, there can be tragedy for the people that need it the most. The problems can be so big that it can cause slow production or even cause death. In Texas, water issues and problems for the cotton industry can hurt everything from people making their clothes to the beddings to towels. It can hurt the economy and the well-being of citizens here in Texas. This paper that I wrote for my final paper, it analyzed different forms of irrigation that can be used in Texas cotton that is used elsewhere in other places, and we'll get more details. Another issue was finding different kinds of capital, different kinds of assets that people can invest to. Analysis of water scarcity in Texas cotton farming is researched by the broad method. So we used the broad method with the two disciplines that I used. Integrative studies is one, but that's also this one here. So I didn't use integrative studies. It was just organizational leadership and general business. Those are my two main focuses. It shows a better understanding in the cotton farming industry. So looking through some of the research that I have done on this topic, we have some that have experimental and then some with quantitative results of those experiments. And some of those different methods that they have used. Let me find one here. So Ahmad, he did a study on semi-arid and arid areas such as Lubbock County here in Texas, high plains. So he did a yield and irrigation study, and it showed that the yield of an area was not affected by 50% of AWC, while the WUE was significantly enhanced. So meaning these different kind of experiments, it showed that it was able to conserve more water using these kind of methods for a different crop and even for cotton. Another big issue that is used in irrigation, especially out here in Lubbock County, is the Ogallala Aquifer that's underground in the high plains of Texas. This is also including Lubbock. The aquifer is slowly declining I believe the research that I showed, I may have to double check myself, but it was 30%. It dropped 30% since 1970s. And that's just from a matter of 40 years, 50 years now. So it's reducing at a rapid pace. And even now today, we use more water than we did back in the 70s. So dropping at a rate that's really, really low. Another one of these articles that I got into was the method of delivery while using surface drip irrigation, SDI. It should reduce the evaporation losses during the pre-plant and early season periods and improve water storage efficiency and crop yield even at a low irrigation capacity. So using a subsurface drip irrigation, which would be using, I believe it's tarps, you would be using that kind of storage so it stores on top, it doesn't sink in, and you're still able to conserve that water. And it goes on he goes on to say um, how 75 millimeters, which is about 2 to 3 inches, and 140 millimeters, which is about 5.5 inches, of pre-plant irrigation had been applied during the dry winter months. There was poor plant yield due to the heavy rains that were occurring. Instead of consistent rain, it would have flooded and out and lost. May and June are the most critical months to cotton farmers, and they must use these irrigation methods to conserve all the water they can to allow that harvest to be bountiful. Another one of these big issues is weather. Weather can change in a rapid pace, whether it's from tornadoes to flooding to dropping water at an incredible rate to where the plants can't swallow up that water or get those nutrients. It'll flood it and actually destroy the crop. So weather forecast is crucial for making data-driven decisions in agriculture, and growers can use forecast data for optimizing various crop inputs and production processes. Um, these are just some examples: irrigation, fertilizers, pesticide application, sowing, and harvesting. So weather can play a factor in enough irrigation for the cotton crop. Rainfall needs to be adequate for the crop to be utilized to its fullest potential. So rainfall is probably the most important other than these irrigation methods, but we can't always predict the weather. So another common irrigation strategy is deficit irrigation capacity, storing water in the soil profile prior to planting and before cropping. Consumptive use rates exceed irrigation capacity so that plants have an added water source later in the growing season. So this helps with the lack of rainfall that's been happening here around the Lubbock County area. This kind of method could help around now. There's other irrigation systems that even the Federal Agricultural Mortgage Corporation can use in order to give that money to those farmers so they can implement these irrigation programs and systems inside their farmers. That's coming from a business point of view. So, like I said, the FMAC, the Federal Agricultural Mortgage Corporation, they give money and loan money to these farmers in order to find irrigation methods, get their tools they need, get the tractors and everything they need like that. And some of these systems, they can require 24% less applied money in order to get to these systems. So in these systems, I use my leadership here on this one. So using leadership in a way from the FAMC in order to gain that money and give that to them, they need to make that leadership decision in order to give them that money, that executive decision. So in the general business area, there can be a few ways from research that has been done on some of the reviews in order to find the idea of tax as a solution. So you can tax on a certain amount and give that tax from those people to give to the farmers. That's coming from Texas, like a Texas tax, which I believe that Governor Abbott has one in play for these cotton farmers, because that is one of the biggest crops here to grow in Texas. So this can be achieved by internalization and externalities, which requires an optimal tax rate to equal the marginal cost imposed by the external cost. They go on to say that a tax on water can encourage others to start caring more for the water security problem, which can be extended to Texas and used by the Texas government. So by putting a tax on people that use more water than normal, in order for that water to be used for plants, and people that use it at their house to water their grass and take longer showers, it can be used as a tax to tax them on that water that they use in order to use it for these plants and this cotton crop that we use to grow. Here's another one by Marriott. The primary taxes we consider in this study are volumetric taxes, determined by the volume of water used, and pollution-based taxes, where payment is determined by the number of pollutants emitted into water. So if there's more pollutants in the water, there's more tax going to be applied to you, which is just basically common sense. Why would you dirty something and not expect a consequence back? So another thing for me when I was researching, pricing water is very difficult, but it can make it easier to read whenever you have a chart, using that maximum economic efficiency theory, which is a great theory to look at. This can be met when a price is at set level where the marginal costs and benefits can be set at an equilibrium. So next, we can use quotas and help communities in Texas reach a goal such while the supply of water is low, as shown by Mali, prices are fixed by the government and the spice sectors are made uniform so that farmers in the Negev desert pay the same price as farmers close to the source. So we can make it easier for people that are farther away from the water to get charged the same amount of money as the people that live closer by making these taxes possible. So that's that one. There's some numbers. So this one is a study done in China on there was cotton seedlings, so it's still cotton crop, so it's still relevant. But it was in China and how they managed to increase their profits by more than 10 to 31% in a low and high fertility rate. The cotton seedlings, they began to appear. It shows here, compared with monocropped cotton, the study of experimental data shows that due to certain activities, the profits can increase by 10% and could be proven to be used in Texas cotton industry that could boost the economic activity in Texas. With this kind of boost of profits in Texas, we can also find ways to implement more money back into the industry. So the money that you profit from, put it back into the industry and keep applying these methods. So there was also an analysis done, I believe also in China, over corn and cotton. So there was optimum levels of tributary width, irrigation application, and for corn range from 23.53 to 32.5 acres per inch. Based on the economic results, benefit analysis is conducted, and it proves that the information could help improve the water conservation decision-making process. So just a few of those methods again. Applying any kind of research to complex problems such as water scarcity is what interdisciplinary research is all about. It's about applying everything that you need to know, all these disciplines that you have, and applying it to a complex problem. So in my case, it was water scarcity in Texas cotton farming. There's a big role in organizational leadership, and it can help find the mission to define the best methods of irrigation and ways to aid the growth of cotton in West Texas. So there are a couple of conflicts. Looking at conflicts, one of the big ones, we said it earlier, rainfall. That's one of the biggest conflicts because we can't predict when it's going to rain. We can't say, oh, it's going to rain on this day, so we need to prepare the seedlings and plant them at a certain point. We can only take a guess of when it's going to rain, and even forecasts can lie to you. General business, it can affect the cotton industry by the business decisions, like I said, the FMAC, putting out where locations can go. So if you want to farm in Abilene versus you want to farm in Plainview, I'd rather go to Abilene because it's wetter and it's more arid, semi-arid. It's more semi-arid, while Plainview is more arid and dry. So I would rather go to Abilene where the water is plentiful versus going where the water is in the deficit. So, like I said here, wet areas such as Dallas. Dallas is a big wet area. It's where a lot of cotton farming can be there, but it can be too wet sometimes. So that's why Lubbock County, Abilene, Tahoka, Abernathy, anywhere in between this area is like a great cotton farming industry. Places like Laredo is not a very good idea, but you can, if you want to, you can always try it. Profits will go down in an industry in the worst case scenario crash, such as the rainfall being a problem. So there is some common ground that I used. So using those methods above that I talked about, as well as in my essay as well, I used the irrigation for corn crop because that could be helpful by increasing profits up 10 to 30%. Finding ways to allow water to have a drainage system or reservoirs that the water could go into that could be used for the cotton farming. For this to happen at all, though, through organizational leadership and business professionals alike myself, we can utilize teamwork to achieve these goals and finding new methods of communication and finances in a way to find this. the ways we can help these farmers is allow them to help us as well. So if we help them, they help us in finding different ways to do this. So everything that was presented so far is the research that I've done, and I've come to a conclusion. In order to make these new methods and finding a way to utilize the irrigation and water aquifers to the fullest advantage, we could make it aware to the public through ads, websites, flyers, and even using a big platform such as Coca-Cola as a sponsor to show the issue of water scarcity. So they have Super Bowl commercials all the time. We could have Coca-Cola do an ad over water and how much water they use in order to make their Coca-Cola brand, and how much water we could save by just, for them putting their part or their finances way. It could just be an idea. Learning about how China uses their crops such as corn and their cotton to maximize everything that they do to create profitable shares. If implementing the method that China used from above can result in a 10% increase, I'm pretty sure it could certainly be used here and have an annual profit, and the research shows annual profit of approximately $24 billion per year. When utilizing the methods that China implemented, Texas Cotton can make roughly $26.4 billion in annual revenue. This can be a snowball effect and allow the advancements in technology to advance the cotton industry even further. So, we've gone over everything. This has been a fun class. I enjoyed it. It was long. I felt like it took forever. But now that we're finally graduating, I just want to say congratulations to everybody. We passed. We did it. Recom Tech.